and good evening from Morovia and welcome to King's News. 45 minutes of news about Liberia and the rest of our world globe. I'm Stephen Compton, Hungary. First, the headlines. Two persons confirmed dead in fatal accident along Kakata Keresburg Highway. Eyewitnesses say they were struck by a vehicle in President Joseph Boakai convoy. Magibi County Senator Nathaniel Mangione accuses Unity Party-led government of rebranding and taking credit of projects initiated by former President Joshua. Says the CDC-led government improved rural health care and initiated several projects. And also coming up in the news, former presidential candidate Dr. Clarence Monimba describes a 2026 $1.2 billion draft national budget as financial disparity created between government and ordinary citizens, away from whom Cameroonian opposition leader Assad Chiroman Bakara, who is contesting the outcome of the presidential election, has fled to Gambia for his safety. The Gambian government has said. Details of these developments, the news bulletin, and the voices of the news makers are all packaged. We are taking a very short break to be right back. Welcome back. Let's now cross over to Newton Toba for the bulletin of news.
The Liberian National Police has confirmed the deaths of two individuals involved in fatal road accident that occurred on Saturday along the Kakata-Keresburg Highway. According to police reports, on Saturday, November 22nd, the LMP vehicle assigned to President Joseph Boakai's escort convoy allegedly struck a motorbike carrying operator Peter Kamara, 45, and passenger Chris Momo, 45. In a statement issued Monday, the LMP said the victims were pronounced dead at the C.H. Rennie Hospital referral in Kakata, Magibi County. Meanwhile, an eyewitness told reporters that the incident happened when a vehicle within a presidential escort left its lane and collided with the motorbike. He added that the situation has triggered mixed reactions among residents in the area, many of whom expressed disbelief and concern over the circumstances surrounding the incident. However, the Liberian National Police, through its communication department, noted that it is in contact with the victims' families and pledged its commitment to them. Magibi County Senator Nathaniel Mangione has issued a sharp critique of the United Party government, accusing the Boakai administration of rebranding development projects initiated under former President George Weah as new achievements. Responding to comments from a Spoon FN panelist, Senator Mangione argued that the UP has done nothing new since assuming office. The former Minister of State maintained that every major project currently promoted by the United Party government rests on the foundations laid by the Coalition for Democratic Change government. He dismissed the administration infrastructure claims as misleading, citing the Ganta Saklepier Road as a key example. According to Senator Mangione, financing for the project was secured and contracts signed during the Weah presidency, with actual construction beginning before the transition. He argued it is the inaccurate information for the UP to take ownership of pre-existing projects. Addressing healthcare, the senator rejected assertions that the CDC made limited progress. The Magibi County senator referenced what he described as one of Liberia's largest modern hospitals, constructed in Bapolo County at a cost of US $28 million, and also added that rural healthcare access improved under the CDC, pointing to the World Bank back road leading to Jackson F. Doe Hospital in Tapeta. Mangione also dismissed discussions surrounding sanctions as a Thus, political too, asserting that key government operations continue despite external pressure, accusing the Unity Party of inflating its accomplishments, arguing that the Unity Party administration is benefiting from groundwork laid by former President George Weah. Former presidential candidate Dr. Clarence Moniba has raised concerns over what he described as significant financial disparities between ordinary citizens and government officials in the proposed US 1.2 billion draft national budget for 2026. Dr. Moniba's remarks followed growing criticism from opposition political parties, including the CDC, the MPC, terming the draft budget as a potential threat to the country's economic stability. Appearing on Spoon Talk over the weekend, Dr. Modoba asserted that the proposed budget does not reflect the interests of ordinary Liberians, but instead favors small group of individuals in positions of power. He urged President Joseph Boakai to withdraw the current draft and immediately increase the minimum take-home pay for civil servants to US 500. According to Dr. Moniba, the fiscal capacity to raise civil servant salaries already exists, but he said it requires decisive presidential action to implement such reforms. The Liberal National Union's 2023 presidential candidate also called for a reduction in the number of government ministries and agencies to more than 50 institutions, urging that such consolidation will save the country millions of dollars, and added that these savings could be redirected toward accelerating national development across the country. Finance and Development Planning Minister Augustine Kafwan is calling on African states and private sector partners to strengthen cooperation in combating financial crimes and regulating emerging digital financial technologies. A two-day forum held under the auspices of the Intergovernment Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa convened regional regulators, financial institutions, technology innovators, and development partners for high-level discussions on virtual asset service providers, and financial integrity across the sub-region. Speaking at the fourth GIBA Public-Private Sector Consultative Forum 2025 on Monday at the Farmington Hotel in Magibi County, Minister Gavon lauded GBAT and its partners for convening what he termed as consequential platform, describing the forum as both symbolic and practical in advancing West Africa's collective defense against money laundering, terrorist financing, cyber fraud, and other emerging threats. Mr. Gafwan highlighted Liberia's growing visibility as a host nation for major regional conferences. He emphasized that while digital financing technologies present opportunities for innovation, financial inclusion, and economic growth, they also pose risks if not properly regulated. Minister Kafwan noted that in the wrong hands, they cannot field money laundering, terrorists, financing, fraud, trafficking, and other illicit activities. President Joseph Boakai has attributed the government's decision to restrict commercial motorcyclists and operating on major routes in the Monrovia and surrounding areas to what he described as persistent unrooted behavior among some riders. Speaking Monday at the African Student Leadership Program in Tingas Village, the Liberian leader said motorcyclists have over the years engaged in immoral and unprofessional activities, which he believes discourage potential investment in Liberia. According to President Boakai, many members of the motorcycle and tricycle unions lack adequate knowledge of conflict resolution, particularly when accidents occur. It emphasized that the government's decision is intended to protect lives and reduce traffic congestion in the capital. At the same time, President Boakai urged young people to prioritize national interests over personal and political gain, and also cautioned them against celebrating politicians who he said have contributed to undermining their future. The president further underscored the importance of education, discipline, character development, and national unity in fostering Liberia's progress. The Supreme Court of Liberia on Monday heard arguments in an appeal filed by the Sapo Acne community, whose members insist that their exclusion from the redesigned Liberian $1,000 banknote amounts to a constitutional wrong and affront to their cultural identity. The redesigned note, introduced in 2021 as part of the Central Bank of Liberia's currency overhaul, features cultural marks representing 16 of the county's ethnic groups. They added that one of the group is conspicuously missing, which is the Sapo, an official organized tribe whose name is into the nation's geography through Sapo National Park, Liberia's largest protected rainforest. The Sapo community informed the court that the omission is more than a design oversight in a symbolic erasure. During their court filings Monday's oral arguments, their lawyer asserted that the exclusion violates constitutional guarantees of equality, due process, and national integration. They further argued that the decision runs that's to Liberia's commitment on a various international human rights instruments and prohibit cultural discrimination. The case which reached the High Court after the Civil Law Court dismissed the community's original petition, ruling at the support had suffered into injury and the central bank owed them no duty regarding the banknote design. And the pastor of the says Methodist Church in Kirisburg, Massachusetts County, has appealed to members of the church who left because of personal reasons to return in order to building the church they inherited from their forefathers. Reverend Bernard Knuckles said the Methodist Church is a common denominator for the Methodists, despite differences that erupted as a result of interpretation of the definition of marriage by the Liberian Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church. Reverend Knuckles made the appeal when he spoke at the worship service marking the 169th anniversary of the St. Methodist Church in Kirisburg, Massachusetts County.
Would like to say many thanks to Newton Toba for the Bulletin of News. It's a regular feature on King's News Broom. 45 minutes of news about Liberia and elsewhere. In one of our top developments this evening, Margibi County Senator Nathaniel McGill accuses Unity Party-led government of rebranding and taking credit of projects initiated by former President Joshua says the CDC-led government improved rural healthcare and initiated several projects. We are taking another short break. When we come back, we'll bring you the voices of the news makers. Welcome back. Now, with this first development, the Liberia National Police has confirmed the deaths of two individuals involved in a fatal road accident that occurred on Saturday along the Kakata Carisburg Highway. According to police reports on Saturday, November 22, an LMP vehicle assigned to President Joseph Boycott's escort convoy allegedly struck a motorbike carrying operator Peter Kamarad, 45, and passenger carries Momo, age 45. Meanwhile, an eyewitness told reporters that the incident happened when a vehicle within the presidential escort left its lane and collided with the motorbike. Let's now get a highlight of the incident.
My name is Joe Colley Jr. Colley, you were here when this incident took place?
Honestly, watching my body the key there. If I were out the president for pass, anyone left by the Muro now coming over. Monova, we went with Kakata. You got it there for a year, boy, on over the league. Someone that the Moruba, otherwise on a critical condition. Moruba meant that is still.
Wow. Okay. And are the accident cause of
Yeah.
the car cause damage?
Yeah, the Moruba. Moruba, my own car. Moruba and car.
How many persons on the motorbike?
Two person. And the passenger, female.
Oh, so it's a female survivor.
The female, you are not critical condition.
Okay.
What about the motorcyclist?
They car drive wrong. Because he didn't want people to go there.
Right, I know we're gonna bring
The car was in the convoy.
The car was in the convoy. The car can be behind the president
Oh,
convoy.
this is the last car.
A highlight from recent motor incident on the highway that claimed the lives of two individuals. Margibi County Senator Nathaniel McGill has issued a sharp criticism over the Unity Party government, accusing the White Kite administration of rebranding development projects initiated on former President Joshua as new achievements. Responding to comments from a Spoon FN panelist, Senator McGill argued that the UP has done nothing new since assuming office.
First of all, since United Party came into power, how many jobs are create international foreign job in terms of international trade? How many in terms of investment? How many jobs are not created? Since you saw more poor, how many jobs have they created? How many investment jobs have they created? So what is the difference United Party has done outside President we are? Not they can say anything. The same thing President we are there. Yeah, the same thing they're doing. They're building. In fact, they are building on everything President with the foundation President we are laid. The foundation United Party is building on. They have not done anything new. There's no new project that United Party have initiated. The only new road project that I know they're coming to do, that a new concession they're trying to buy for the guy from Freetown. In fact, most of the road are already on a concession. Most of the road are already on a concessions. They said concession was a bad thing to do to get road concession agreement to people. They're getting road concession agreement to people. So what is the new thing? If we talk about sanction came at the late days. Sanctions are political too. I don't want to even dwell on the sanction issue because those are political too. So those things were never done during the regime, during the functioning period of President Weah. Mind you, President Weah operated even during COVID when we had pandemic and the country was still normal. Things were happening. Projects were ongoing. Imagine Unity Party is a face such like pandemic like COVID. What will happen with Unity Party? They've not done anything new. I challenge them to bring me to show me any new program. The road from Ganta to Dredru. It's a CDC project. The money was acquired and contract was signed by CDC. The road started under President Weah. So nothing new is happening. But because government is continuing, okay, we praise the government for continuing the program. But they assume that those projects is a result of Unity Party's own initiative. I disagree. That's not true. Education, health. You talk about health penetration. President Weah built one of the most modern hospitals that cost more than $28 million in Bapolu, and you say there was no health penetration. So I don't understand why maybe you're just talking out of the blue sky. But there's no fact. I'm giving you a fact. Health penetration in places like Riverside, we built hospital there. We talk about penetration. Because we had a Jackson F. Doe hospital in Nima County, in Tapeta, President Weah made sure that we would take Kota Road there.
Margibi County Senator Nathaniel McGill there speaking. Former presidential candidate Dr. Clarence Manimba has raised concerns over what he described as significant financial disparities between ordinary citizens and government officials in the proposed U.S. $1.2 billion draft national budget. Dr. Manimba's remarks are further growing criticism from opposition political parties, including the CDC and MPC, terming the draft budget as a potential threat to the country's economic stability. Meanwhile, appearing on the Spoon Talk over the weekend, Dr. Manimba cited that the proposed budget does not reflect the interests of ordinary citizens, but instead favors a small group of individuals in position of power.
I'm calling on the president to recall the draft national budget of $1.2 billion and to immediately increase the minimum take-home pay of civil servants to at least $500 every month. The fiscal space already exists if we reduce our government structure. The transformation of our people's lives requires that leadership thinks about tomorrow. In a country of just 5.2 million people, there's absolutely no reason to maintain over 104 ministries, agencies, and commissions. By reducing government from 104 to no more than 50 institutions, Liberia, we would save over $400 million in goods, services, and overhead. That amount alone could go directly to increasing the civil servants that I just talked about, training our youth, equipping our hospitals, our schools, and securing our communities.
Now up to the next development, President Joseph Boakai has attributed the government's decision to restrict commercial motorcyclists from operating on major roads in Monrovia and its surrounding areas to what he described as persistent unruly behavior among some riders. Speaking Monday at the African Student Leadership Program in Tingles Village, the Liberian leader said motorcyclists have over the years engaged in immoral and unprofessional activities, which he believes discourage potential investment in Liberia. According to President Boakai, many members of the motorcycle and tricycle unions lack adequate knowledge of conflict resolution, particularly when accidents occur.
So people saw us taking the motorcycle riders off the road. We hit them. In fact, they've been doing a good job. But motorcycles don't serve traffic altogether. Some investors come, they want to move fast. The petrol riders, and sometimes when they hit you, they jump on you. You don't solve problem that way. So you don't encourage investors to come into a place where traffic is bad. You don't want to take your beautiful daughters or put them on the motorcycle. That's why we brought buses for decent riding, for organized riding. Motorcycles got their role, but the young people must go to school in an organized way, in a decent way, so that their parents will know where they are and when they come. You must be the generation that stands for peace, for development, and for nation building.
Liberian leader President Joseph Boakai there speaking. The head of the Independent National Human Rights Commission has aligned over the prevented custody of 15 kids between ages of 12 to 15 at the Monrovia Central Prison in violation of the rights of a child and Constitution of Liberia. Councillor Dexter Brown said the age range of kids should not be in prison but a rehabilitation center despite of their crimes they allegedly committed.
We carry the children to the Monrovia Central Prison, and they carry us in it for the juvenile ward. And we met with them. There were about 15 that we met.
The 15 were both female and male?
No, only one female. But the female was not with them. She was in the female ward. Okay. But we met with the children. Some of them 12 years, 13 years, or in the area that some of them said they stay 2 years, 1 year.
And what were the children conditions are in prison?
From their faces, you could see that they are discouraged.
So that these 14 children that you met in the prison, could you just tell us some of the offenses that they committed?
Some of them committed minor offenses. So one of them was accused of murder. Our concern as a human rights group, the age that we look at, they should not be in prison. They should be in a rehabilitation center. But what we noticed is that out of the 15, only one there is a convict. The other rest, pre-trial detainees. They just kept them there. They don't care they do go.
As a pre-trial detainees, looking at the number of time they are being there, it's in violations of the rights.
Yeah, you cannot keep those type of children in the prison. No.
That is the first violation.
That's the first violation. 2, and the law says that if The offense is felony as indicted after 2 successive terms and no trial to free the person.
That's me on 18.2.
Yeah, 18.2. But the juvenile we're talking about, they are not being indicted. They just there in the prison, which is a violation of the rights of the children.
So as a head of the Human Rights Commission, what are you contemplating on doing now for them?
I told them we'll do everything possible to seek their welfare. We will go through courtroom proceedings and make sure that they are released.
Meaning like one of our motion to dismiss charges against them?
Yes, because they are not indicted. You cannot keep them in jail indefinitely. Constitution says that you must give them speedy trial. There shall be no preventive custody.
What lays with the prosecution to know what they are doing to try them?
No, I can't ask them because they should know better.
Councillor Dexter Brown is the head of the Independent National Human Rights Commission. They're speaking. Well, if you are just coming our way, this is a reminder that you are listening to the Monday, November 24th, 2025 edition of King's News. Taking a very short break, we'll come back, we'll bring you more developments. Welcome back and thanks for rejoining us. Up to this next development, the political leader of the Liberty Party has called on members of the party to take ownership by beginning paying their dues in order to have a role in the decision making of the party. Senator Nyombli Kanga Lawrence said the reduction of members of the party in paying dues has the propensity to undermine the progress aimed at taking the rightful decision in the party.
For the party to succeed, we have to work through structures. We got to work through the system. That's why our priority, after we came back together, had a convention, put the leaders together, programs will be having. We say, let us restructure before we can start active work. We have restructured Grand Bassa County. We have restructured 14 districts in Masorado County. We completed to 17. We went to Riverside. We went to Makibi. Then we go to the Peacock County. I'm here to tell you that the structures that we inducted today, we're not going to do anything in your district if we don't work through you. I remember the coordinators, and I told them, after your induction, and you have recruited members in your district, tell the packet, say, I'm ready for the political leader to come up to my district, and I will come. I'm not just coming, I'm coming with programs. Liberty Party, right now we have the largest scholarship program. Our young people must benefit. I'm coming to your district to strengthen the women. Go back to your district, put your women together. I'm coming there to strengthen the women. Right now, the women that were depending on to make it more strong. While we're looking for a job, I'm coming to your district. When you go, you recruit the women and for me. When I come from there, the women will be already. So all of our coordinators, we say we want to institutionalize our party. Because we want to say the party that Yomli Kanka Lawrence, or the party that AP Tyrus Daniel, or the party that Jacob Smith, the party that all of us, you have to take ownership. If you put something in the party, tomorrow you will have voice. You say, I will say something to the political leader because I put something in the party. So all of us have to pay dues. We get paid $100 every month for our party. We get paid $100 every month for our party.
The Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection has announced the calendar of activities in commemorating the 16th day of activism against sexual and gender-based violence in the country. The Deputy Gender Minister, Laura Golake, disclosed that as part of the 16th day of activism, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection will on Tuesday lead a parade of various women groups to follow by a national gender-based conference at the ministerial complex in Congo Town.
The 16th
A press conference held in Congo Town over the weekend, Minister Gulaket explained that over the next 16 days, the Gender Ministry and its partners were engaged in a series of activities aimed at calming gender-based violence in Liberia.
16 Days of Activism campaign is being observed under the global theme, Unite to End Digital Violence Against All Women and Girls. In Liberia, we commemorate the campaign under the national theme, Unite to End Violence, Protecting All Women and Children in Our Communities and Digital Spaces. On Tuesday, November 25th, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, in collaboration with the National GBV Task Force, our CSO partners, the Women of Liberia, and our international partners will join the rest of the world to officially launch the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence. This launch will begin with a parade from the Ministry of Health to the EJS Ministerial Complex right here in Congo Town, beginning at 9 a.m., where the National GBV Conference will commence. Over the next 16 days, the ministry, in collaboration with its partners, will embark on a series of nationally driven engagements directed at addressing the root causes of GBV and amplifying the voices of survivors. It is important to highlight that Liberia has made significant progress in addressing violence against women and girls through coordinated efforts within government, our international partners, NGOs, CSOs, and all of you. I'd like to highlight some key achievements just to set the mood for why we're celebrating.
Finance and Development Planning Minister Augustin Gafuan is calling on African states and private sector partners to strengthen cooperation in combating financial crimes and regulating emerging digital financial technologies. The forum held under the auspices of the Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa, convened regional regulators, financial institutions, technology inventors, and development partners for high-level discussion on virtual access, among other things. Speaking at the ceremony in the morning at the Farmington Hotel in Magibi County, Minister Gafuan lauded the institution and its partners for convening what he termed as the platform, describing the forum as both symbolic and practical in advancing West Africa's collective defense against money laundering.
As a son of this sovereign and a steward of Liberia's fiscal house, I take great pride in our nation being chosen as a venue for this gathering. This event is more than symbolic and affirms our shared dedication to regional cooperation, financial integrity, and innovation that advances rather than undermines our development goals. The theme of this forum is risk-based supervision of virtual assets and virtual asset service providers, VASPS. This connects with me in a way because in my professional journey, one of the first places that I worked was on the Central Bank of Liberia. And in the Central Bank, the first department with which I worked was the supervision department. And I was responsible for regulation and supervision. And I was a bank examiner. So that we're talking about risk-based supervision of virtual assets and virtual asset service providers. I think you're on record hearing about the excellent cooperation between the central bank and our FIA means that we are taking some of the baby steps that will capacitate us to be able to deal with this critical challenge. The theme, risk-based supervision of vehicle assets and vehicle asset service providers, may sound technical, but its implications are deeply human. Vehicle assets are reshaping lives. They can empower the excluded, accelerate transactions, and unlock new opportunities. Yet, in the wrong hands, they can also fuel money laundering, terrorist financing, fraud, drug trafficking, and cybercrime. Vehicle assets are like fire. They can warm the house or burn it down.
Finance Minister Augustine Gafwan there speaking. Coming up next is our foreign development, but this development sets the pace. The pastor of the Says Methodist Church in Carisburg, Monserrato County, has appealed to members of the church who left because of personal reason to return in order to build a church they inherited from their forefathers. Reverend Benjamin Nukov said that says mentality is the common denominator of the Methodist despite the differences that erupted as a result of the interpretation of the definition of marriage by the Liberia Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church. Reverend Nuncold made the appeal when he spoke at the worship service marking the 169th anniversary of the St. Methodist Church in Carisburg, Monserrato County over the weekend.
Unfortunately, a few of our members have walked away for one reason or the other. I want to take this time to appeal to them. Come back home. We love you. God can help us to fix whatever our differences are. There is nothing too big that He cannot solve. No matter where you go, you will not find a perfect church. We will not agree on everything, but our faith in Christ Jesus and our love for one another can overcome all of our differences. Some of you may be puzzled and confused, or may be upset about the fact that the people of Says Methodist Church are no longer a part of the United Methodist denomination. Let me tell you this. At Says Methodist Church, our faith is grounded in God alone and based upon His word, Scripture. It's not based on the bishop. It's not based on the board of ordained ministry. It's definitely not based on a book of discipline that at times contradicts Scripture. So do not be puzzled. Do not be confused about our decision. Says started off as a Methodist Episcopal church. By the time I was born, it was Says Methodist Church. On April 3rd, 1968, the Methodist Church merged with the Evangelical United Brethren, and that's how the United Methodist denomination was formed. But on March 23rd of this year, after the United Methodist denomination changed the definition of marriage without our consent and against our beliefs, the officers and members of SAYS unanimously decided to leave the denomination and revert to our old name, SAYS Methodist Church. Yes, I am SAYS, and I am commissioned to go. And I rest assured, knowing with confidence that Jesus promised to be with us always.
And now on the way from home, Cameroonian opposition leader Asa Chiromant Bakari, who is contesting the outcome of the presidential election, has fled to the Gambia for his safety, the Gambian government has said. Chiroman Bakari has insisted he is the legitimate winner of the 12th November 2025 election, alleging that the results were rigged to give President Paul Biya his 92 and 8th term. The Gambia Information Ministry said on Saturday that Chiroman Bakari arrived on 7th November and was allowed to stay on humanitarian grounds. Cameroon's government had threatened to put him on trial for alleged inciting violence post election demonstration. He denied the allegation and blamed the security forces for a crackdown on protesters. And elsewhere, Israel's military had killed a senior member of military group in an airstrike on the southeastern sub-region of the Lebanon capital, despite a ceasefire. Well, that's all we have for today's edition of the news program. And this is how we take our leave. But before leaving you, reminder of top stories. We close the photo. Two persons confirmed dead in fatal accident along Kakata Keresburg Highway. Witnesses said they were struck by a vehicle in President Joseph Boyka's convoy. McGibby County Senator Nathaniel Magilda accuses Unity Party-led government of rebranding and taking credit of projects initiated by former President Joshua. Says the CDC-led government improved rural health care and initiated several projects. Former presidential candidate Dr. Clarence Manimba described 2026 $1.2 billion draft national budget as financial disparity created between government and citizens, away from whom Cameroonian opposition leader Assad Chiromia Bakari, who is contesting the outcome of the presidential election, is fleeing to the Gambia for his safety, the Gambian government has said. This note, we'd like to say many thanks to Newton Topa for the news bulletin, and also to our news writers, reporters, and editors for making today's news presentation a success. Sam Andrew, Sarah Control, and ably coordinated sound. I'm Stephen Compton. Thanks for listening and watching.